kind of things weren't going so well. But in any event, we are recording, so now we have to be careful about what we say. So, who are some of the people? Mallory, do you have
Hey, David.
access? Yes.
David, it's Mallory. We actually just, it looks like everyone was just delayed in getting in. So we've got 14 people on the line now.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So I think we can go ahead and get started. I think there might have been a slight delay in like the, I don't know, the broadcast beginning, but we're rocking and rolling now. So go ahead.
Wow. Hey, everybody. We are so glad that you're here. We've been carrying on, having casual discussion, wondering if anyone was going to join us. When I say I'm grateful that you're here, I truly mean it. So welcome to our Champions Call. I see a couple of people on the call who participated in our earlier webinar. This one is far less formal, hopefully much more conversational. So you are being recorded. Hopefully you don't have any reservations about that. If you do, please let us know. But we like to record these so that we have the information on hand for later time. So again, on behalf of the Citizen CPR Foundation, welcome, champions. So we have what I believe to be an incredibly important subject to discuss this month, and I'll provide an introduction to one or two guest speakers momentarily. We're going to see if we can just let everyone control their own microphones for this call, because there's a desire to be interactive here and engaging. So let's go ahead and get underway. Next slide, please. So we're having some trouble with the mice. Again, welcome. Next slide, please. I see on the list we've got quite a few familiar peers on the call today. I'm going to forego the roll call, but when we do get to the interactive portion, when you're asking questions over the mic, please indicate who you are. Just give us your name and let us know who you are. Next slide, please. So these are designed again for, program champions rather than people who are looking to start a program. So I'm hoping that, all the people who we see from month to month, that the number will grow over time. So this is a permanent place setting for any announcements that any of you want to make, whether it's a conference, something that, is groundbreaking. Are there any announcements? I have one to make, but do any of you have any announcements that you'd like to announce? Ten seconds is a long time. Okay, I do have an announcement. It's going to be a little bit vague, but details to follow. So the next Cardiac Arrest Survival Summit, we do have a confirmed location, and we do have a confirmed date. So look for some additional information, but I believe the next summit kicks off on December 7th in San Diego. Wellington, do you have any additional details that are able to be shared publicly at this time, or is mum the word? Maybe mum.
No, Dave.
Go ahead, Jen. Look for further information to come, right? All right, let me just take a look at the list of folks who are on here.
Hey Dave, it's Paula Lang. I just wanted to add that the conference is in December of 2021.
2021, correct. Let me see, is Mike on the call? Our second guest?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Mike, very good. So then we can continue. Next slide, please. So each month on these calls, we endeavor to recruit at least one expert to discuss critical aspects and innovations related to improving outcomes. And so this month, we get a double shot. So we've got two awesome people to introduce to you. Next slide, please. Yep, keep going. One more. There they are. And far more handsome than me, right? So we've got Josh from Richland Fire and EMS, and we've got Mike from In a Heartbeat. And I'm going to give each of them a moment to introduce themselves. Josh, you go first.
Sure. Well, thanks, Dave, for having me. First off, like Dave said, I'm from Richland Fire and Emergency Services here in Richland, Washington. It's Southeast Washington State. So when you think about where we're at, pick the dry part and you'll locate where we're at. So we have a community that we serve populated with about 60,000 residents. So we serve those residents out of 4 stations currently, with a 5th one being built. Our minimum staffing on a daily basis is 12 firefighters with 1 battalion chief. That's going to be up to once we open up that new station. We run about 7,500 calls a year. And just to give you a perspective in how it relates to cardiac arrest survival, which will be the topic today, last year was our busiest year responding to cardiac arrest, and that was with 60 out of hospital cardiac arrests. So I'm the program coordinator for HEARTSafe Richland, and I'm sure we'll talk much more about that here in the future. So thanks for having me.
Thanks. Thanks, Josh. And one kind of important piece of information that he left out, well, 2 important pieces. If you could keep that slide up, that would be awesome. Is that Josh represents the first Citizen CPR Foundation designated HEARTSafe community. So kudos to Josh and his team in Richland for their fabulous accomplishment. And so I felt it important that we get his perspective today about, how are things going in Richland regarding citizen CPR education. And now it's like really my pleasure to introduce our second guest, Mike. Mike, why don't you take a minute or two to introduce yourself, and you can tell a little bit of your story, please.
Yeah, thanks, David. Hey, everyone. My name is Mike Papali. I am with In a Heartbeat. I'm the president and founder. We are a nonprofit organization with the mission to prevent death from sudden cardiac arrest. Before I tell you a little bit about our organization, the reason I got into this whole world of CPR, AEDs, cardiac arrest is because I am a cardiac arrest survivor. I went into cardiac arrest when I was 17. I was completely healthy, so I thought. I was working at my dad's basketball camp. I was getting recruited to play college basketball at the time, and just slumped over onto the ground in the morning. And there was no AED in the building. Nobody did CPR right away. I was lucky that a man came from next door. When 911 was called, he was sitting at his desk, and he's a volunteer EMT, so he got the call, came over and gave me CPR. So I got really lucky, and I was later diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which I had no clue that I had, no clue that it was in my family. So In a Heartbeat, we do a variety of different things, starting with we donate AEDs, we provide CPR AED training, we help set up emergency action plans, we donate money to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy research projects. We have a support group for patients of heart disease, cardiac arrest survivors, patients living with ICDs, and their families. And our latest endeavor is we are breaking into offering free EKG screening events throughout the state of Connecticut. So I'm happy to be here, David, and talk about how we can work together. And
yeah, I'm happy that you're here too. And you know, I met Mike. How old are you now, Mike?
I just turned 31 on Saturday.
Yeah, so, and I met you just after you were resuscitated.
Right, yep.
I would add that your parents, like you, are absolutely lovely people. So
Thank you.
glad to have both of these guys on the call today, because I think they're going to provide us with some really interesting perspectives. Next slide, please, John. All right, so again, I'm probably dating myself a little bit here, but you know, this is an excellent, you know, image for talking about the time sensitivity and relationship of interventions with survival from sudden cardiac arrest. And so we know again that bystander CPR and, you know, rapid defibrillation strategies, you know, ideally by bystanders, is going to make, you know, an incredible impact on improving outcomes from sudden cardiac arrest. But now, right, so like next slide, please. The issue has been, and Josh is going to talk about this, we had a lot of trouble motivating bystanders earlier before this all happened, and now it's even harder. Josh, why don't you take a few minutes to kind of set the table here?
Sure. So as David said, being one of the first agencies or cities to get designated as a HEARTSafe community, a lot of that time was spent prior to designation of research and development, trying to figure out what works best within the city of Richland. You know, we know the answer to cardiac arrest survival is getting somebody on that chest as soon as possible, buying the time for the responders to then get there and provide advanced cardiac life support and get them to the hospital. There were a couple things, though, that we recognized through data, through working with our dispatch center, that was preventing people from acting. And that was one, recognizing that that patient was in cardiac arrest. In fact, the latter part of 2018's data proved to us that people were either being delayed in receiving care or receiving no care at all because people thought that they were just in seizure. They saw that seizure-like activity that's common in witness cardiac arrest. They saw the gasping respirations. They didn't recognize that person was in cardiac arrest. So they either didn't provide care or they didn't trust the dispatcher was giving them the right recommendation to start CPR. And then the second thing was just the emotional barriers. Another piece of data that we utilize now is in 2019, 68% of our cardiac arrests happen at home, which is right on line with the national averages. And there was some delayed care there because they weren't prepared to overcome the emotional barriers. And so one of the things we started to do in our classes to tailor it to what our community needed was, for one, making sure that they were exposed to real life 911 audio, and then two, making sure that they were exposed to some videos out there that are available to everybody on YouTube and the web of people that actually are witnessed to go in cardiac arrest, so that they see what that seizure-like activity can be like. So those are some things that we identified early on.
Yeah, excellent points. You know, given that most cardiac arrests occur in and around the home, right? I think that people like try to come up with every reason like why they shouldn't perform CPR, like, you know, agonal breathing. Oh, thank goodness he's breathing. For a minute, I thought I'd have to do CPR. You know, there's a number of issues that present big barriers to bystander intervention. And I think you did a great job of kind of giving us a preview or a reminder of them. Next slide, please. Mike.
Yeah. So, one of the, our big focuses is, of course, on training as many people as possible, whether that's, official certifications or just giving them the knowledge of what to do in an emergency. So, our big emphasis when we do our trainings and our certifications are, kind of just going off what Josh was saying, like knowing, whether or not someone needs CPR, not having doubt to start. Because I think there's so many people that have this fear that they're going to do something wrong or they're going to hurt somebody. So we do try to do a really good job of emphasizing that this person can't get worse, and by just providing chest compressions, just providing just hands only CPR, you're doing more to help save them, before EMS arrives. So, we focus a ton on that. We focus a ton on, difference. Still today, I did an interview and a woman kept asking me about the time I had a heart attack, and talking about the difference between sudden cardiac arrest and a heart attack. And then we emphasize a ton about, AEDs, and AEDs are out there so much, and they're so much more prevalent now, but survival rates of cardiac arrest aren't going up as quickly as they could. And I think that's because there's still this myth out there that, AEDs can hurt somebody, and I'm not sure if I should use one. And we just try to make sure people understand, like, let the AED make the decision, turn it on, put the pads on, let the AED read the heart rhythm, and make that decision for you. Because, we do demonstrations at all our events and everything that we do, and we still get the same reaction of, man, I would have never even touched that machine because I thought it could hurt somebody. So,
and that's when we could actually have events, right, Mike?
Yeah.
And so I think collectively, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but this image was put in here to kind of emphasize that, actually, if you roll the clock back, and I know there's a couple of people who have been involved as long as I have been, and perhaps in some cases even longer. But you remember with that sudden cardiac arrest, never mind survivors, it just wasn't in the mainstream news. It was, it was in the health pages at best, never mind the front page, right? And so I think we were making a lot of progress in improving citizen awareness. The media is covering citizens' inability to identify AEDs. I know that we always want more from the media, but I do think that up until recently, we were making some progress. Not as much progress as champions like all of you and myself included would have liked to have seen, but I would have to say we were making progress. Would you agree, Mike?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Since I've been involved in the last 13 years, I mean, I've seen, to your point, so much more awareness out there, and coverage in the media of just more people hearing about cardiac arrest and what they can do to help.
And they're making fewer mistakes, right? You still go like this when they, heart attack and cardiac arrest. I just saw a major newscast where the reporter got on screen and said there are 350 cases of cardiac arrest in the United States each year. That was the lead off, right? So it's kind of like faceplant, but we were making progress. Next slide, please. And to that end, and thanks to multiple organizations, American Red Cross, American Heart Association, Safety Council, Citizen CPR Foundation, individual advocates, bringing CPR to the schools, right? Making it a grad requirement in many states. I mean, make no mistake, these are encouraging signs. We are making progress. And I just kind of love this photo. Next slide, please. Josh, you're on.
Yeah, so we talked about momentum, right? So here COVID-19 comes, especially for us in Richland. We'd spent the last 18 to 19 months building relationships, getting people kind of bought into the fact that this can't be a fire department response. This has to be a whole community response to cardiac arrest if we want to see more survivors. And then COVID-19 comes and says, well, we can't gather. People are getting sick if we gather. So let's, completely take all the planned classes we had, and now we're going to postpone them indefinitely. And for our agency, I will say, my role as a firefighter paramedic online, we don't have a public education specialist currently. It's one of our goals to start to be able to have somebody on a day staff position head up something like HEARTSafe Richland and other programs. But for us currently, once this came along, it really shifted our focus completely. For one, we had to focus on policies and procedures and how we respond safely and protect our community from COVID. But, because of that, it really pretty much took our program and said, okay, we're going to pause the entire thing. We didn't have time to develop social media messages on HEARTSafe Richland still. And so one of the things we've learned through this is, we've already got a fantastic working relationship with our communications and marketing department in the city, but we are really going to amp up our ability to get messages out in various ways, not just rely on our classes to educate people, but continue our social media marketing campaigns, get back on the radios as soon as possible, and just continue to spread the message. Because at the end of the day, and Dave, I talked to you about this beforehand, people still want to help others. And so in our community, especially since 68% of cardiac arrest happens at home, at least here last year, and we still need to make sure that people are prepared to recognize those events. So yeah, it definitely stopped our classes. It postponed those pretty much for the remainder of the year, I would imagine. But in the meantime, we've got to get creative in how we still market this message.
Yeah, don't get too far ahead of yourself. Let's see if the next slide accurately portrays what happened with the momentum you had in Richland.
Yeah, perfect.
Right?
Yeah, and the one thing I think it piggybacks onto what you were just saying with Mike earlier. But I learned this just going through various trainings in the fire service that this career in and of itself and the things we strive to do in protecting our communities, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so because we have to overcome obstacles like COVID, it's not going to prevent us from ever increasing cardiac arrest. It's just going to delay us, and it makes us become more creative, and ultimately we grow from that.
Yeah, so challenging times. We need to come up with some really, truly innovative ways to get the citizens re-engaged, right? Next slide, please. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about how things have changed for you.
Yeah. So, like everybody else, we had to put our in-person trainings and our in-person awareness that we do just completely on pause. And that's a huge part of our mission, is to get out there and be in the community and make sure people are, even if we're not necessarily teaching a CPR class or doing CPR demos or teaching people how to use AEDs, just out there talking to people and promoting what we do and making sure people understand, CPR and cardiac arrest and AEDs. So, all that's on hold, and we had to kind of pivot and figure out different ways to get our message out there. So, we kind of took the approach of, number one, using social media, just kind of getting facts, simple, quick facts that we believe are important to our followers. Like I kind of was mentioning before, how easy it is to use an AED. How if you aren't comfortable giving breath, you can provide chest compressions and hands-only CPR to save somebody. How to know if somebody at home, someone that you love, needs CPR, and how, just throwing the statistic out there that 70% of cardiac arrest happens at home. And this is why it's important to know this stuff, because chances are you're going to be doing CPR on someone you love, and it's going to be someone that you really care about that needs your help. So putting that stuff out, and then the other
Don't
thing
give it away yet, Mike.
Okay, all right.
Don't
I'll
give it
stop
away.
there.
So
I'll stop there.
Mike's done some really cool stuff that addresses this social distancing. We're almost there. Let's go to Josh for another comment, and then we're going to roll up our sleeves and get busy as a group here. Next slide, please.
Sure. So how do we pave a new path, right? I think this is what this slide's talking about. You know, in Richland, and kind of what we've seen and what's worked for us is really starting to focus on the education part of it. You know, I led off with recognition and emotional barriers were two of our biggest obstacles with the community. And so really getting back to educating them on, first off, you know, why do they need to be part of this chain of survival? Well, statistics show this is why. We give them all the numbers because some people are numbers people. And then we let them know that there's a difference between a cardiac survivor and a neurologically intact cardiac survivor, and what it takes to get those family members out of the hospitals and able to actually live a life and celebrate, you know, birthdays and occasions with their family members and their loved ones. So we've tried to tie that back into, hey, this is data driven. This is why you make such a huge difference. And then we started to really use the data that we had in-house to target certain areas with that message. So for instance, we have a homeowners association that it takes us a little bit longer to get there. And so, you know, we don't just say, okay, this is a blanket message for everybody, which is fantastic. We've done that too. But we also spend time and effort getting specific data for specific areas and saying, hey, within your area, not only is this general plan going to work, but we need to be more specific. In your area, this is what we need from you. And so giving them the why and making sure that they feel like we're going to spend a lot of time with them to make sure they're successful in what they specifically need. So I think we got to get away from so many just generic AHA messages and, hey, come get a sort of certification card. And we need to start to invest in our communities a little bit more and specifically with what our data is showing.
Well stated, Josh. And, you know, interesting tie-in to, you know, the data collection and, you know, analysis and utilization involved in HEARTSafe. So next slide, please. So, well, you know, I and our panelists have some good ideas. We really want to hear from you. So assuming that COVID will have a long-standing effect on our efforts to educate citizens, and not only educating citizens, but their willingness to come to the rescue of others, we want to hear from you who are the true experts. I mean, I'm looking at the list, and there are some true experts here in how to educate citizens. And I'm certain that some of you have already started implementing your innovations, and some of you have them in your head and you're just trying to figure out how to operationalize them. So this is where we can go to the next slide and we start cataloging your ideas. Now, Mike and Josh and myself, we have a couple of ideas to share with you, but we believe that there's a lot of expertise on that side of the screen where you are, so we want to hear from you. Let us know how you're engaging citizens right now. What ideas do you have that you are planning on acting on? This is not a rhetorical question. Unmute yourself and let us know what your plans are. We'll get busy writing.
Hey, David, it's Dave Fritchie here. Can you hear me?
Yes, David. I'm so glad you're here for the second hour.
Well, you know what? Thanks for putting it on. And Mike Papali, great to run into you again.
Definitely.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Yes. At any rate, I always like to go first, as you know. I'm a loudmouth. No, actually, so one idea I've had is, and by the way, so it's Dave Fritchie. I'm with Save Station and working with a few other like-minded organizations focused on reducing cardiac arrest, like we're all focused on. And one idea I've had is to take some areas that have done a really nice job with some deployments in whatever area that's meant. Usually, you know, obviously the things that make sense, training, AED placement, so forth, so on. And is to go, I'll call it backwards or sideways with them and go through the HeartSafe community process, which I am just learning about, per David's comments earlier. I was on the earlier hour about how to apply it. But I think it sounds like a simple idea, but for those places that might have already involved EMS and gotten the school boards involved, and maybe they've partnered with the health system. One I'm thinking of in Minnesota, which I don't think is on the list yet, they've gotten a geolocation company to locate all the AEDs in the community. All those things are important, and then going backwards with them to work through the HSC process. So simple, but that's one of the ideas I'm working on right now.
Yeah, Dave, great remarks. Couldn't agree more, right? Reach out to your established partners, reach out through your AED registry to folks. The good news is now, when you call them up, right, they might actually answer the phone where, 4 weeks ago,
right,
you just get a voicemail greeting. Due to the pandemic, we're closed, right? There are millions of AEDs inaccessible at that time. I've captured that. Excellent, David. Thank you.
Sure.
Who's next?
David, this is Janet Trethaway from Montana.
Hey, Janet.
How are you?
I'm awesome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. One of the things that we've been really working on here in Montana is working with the last few holdout dispatch centers and PSAPs in getting them to do emergency medical dispatch, at least doing telephone CPR. I don't know about other states. I know that there's probably a piecemeal, just like in Montana. We do not have a legislative requirement that they provide that. It's a local control issue. And so we are going county by county and PSAP by PSAP, really, and since we've been fortunate enough to collect data now for the last 3 years, we were actually able to show them the data of why they need to do this. And one of the things I've really found works well is that when I show up, I'm saying, I'm Janet, I'm from the state, and they roll their eyes. But if I can connect them with another community, another sheriff's department, another PSAP that's doing telephone CPR, and it's peer-to-peer, that's much more impactful and much more powerful to have them talk to their peers rather than talk to me or talk to even their county commissioners or their EMS folks. They need to talk to somebody that's doing it, that can walk them through some of the logistical things, as well as just give them the confidence to say, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, excellent points, Janet. And I'm really glad that you're on, representing cardiac ready communities. I couldn't agree with you more on the peer-to-peer coaching model. And I've been struggling with 911 reform in my own state of Rhode Island for decades, and probably as many task forces as there are years in those decades. But TCPR now is definitely the time has come, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Point well taken. Who's next? I
Hey,
know there's a lot of talent. Come on,
David. It's Connor from Virginia.
Connor, what's up, buddy?
Hey, not much. So I run the HeartSafe Alliance, HeartSafe Greater Williamsburg out here. And we've had a few things we've been doing to keep engaged throughout the pandemic. Right before it started, we had just produced our own training video with one of our fire departments. So we've been able to push that out. We've also tried some virtual trainings where people can just, where we talk through some of the things you guys have mentioned, the importance of AED use, the cardiac arrest numbers, the difference between cardiac arrest and heart attacks, just so people can remain aware. And one of the cool pieces of legislation that was recently passed in Virginia is that gyms now are required to have AEDs. So that's kind of been good for us because a lot of people are reaching out to us to help, so we can help them install the devices. And one other thing I recently tried that was very successful was a giveaway for the CPR Anytime kits, so people can take those back to their home. and in the safety of their own home, they can learn hands-only CPR. So we've had a few things that have been successful. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, and Connor, you know, you're like so many on the call. You're to be commended, you know, as an early adopter, and, you know, job well done. Who would have ever anticipated this, right? Oh my gosh, talk about throwing a wrench into the works.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to hear from some others. By the way, Josh, Janet wants to know where you're getting your data from. So look in the chat box area. Who's next? While you're getting up the courage to talk, I'll throw out one of my suggestions, right? So I don't know if it's happening where you live, but there's been a resurgence in the presence of drive-in movie theaters, right? Wow, right? It took like a pandemic to bring back something that we thought was long gone, an old idea that just was no longer relevant. And now it's entirely relevant. Now, I don't like to just throw out good ideas without experience. So I'll tell you that for about the last 3-4 years, I live in a shoreline community in New England, and the business community down at the beaches set up, you know, movies on the beach, you know, 3-4 years ago. And I will tell you that for those years, they play an instructional video, an instructional hands-only video during the showings of, you know, Jaws and all the usual suspect movies at every one of their showings. And when I ask them for numbers at the end of the summer season, they go, well, we don't count heads, we count cars, but typically there's, you know, 2 to 3 or 4 people in each car. Their numbers have been extremely impressive, ranging from like 3,000 to 7,000 people viewing hands-only instructional videos each year. So now, quick tip, I'm hoping that we'll provide this to you in follow-up, but People Magazine, if you go to People Magazine online, whatever their URL is, and plug in drive-in movie theaters, they will give you a list of every known operational drive-in movie theater in every state across the United States. And I think that is, you know, kind of a pretty slick way to sneak your CPR message into the citizen population. Who's next? Who's ready to speak? Share an innovation. So Janet wants to know which video. It alternates between the AHA and the ARC instructional videos. And the reason for that is I'm a little gun shy because of the study that indicated that the vast majority of videos that are on YouTube land don't accurately portray proper technique. And I like the fact that the, you know, computer generated images and so on and so forth. And I didn't ask permission, if you were wondering. So.
Dave, how do we speak? There we go. I guess you just talk and then you're up. One of the things that we've done in the past, which I think might be very appropriate now, is if you have large companies, I know a lot of people aren't at work still, but you can do a screensaver. So you know how in large companies, when they're not using their computer or they're away from it for a moment, it will go to something that says stand up and move around or whatever. You can actually do a hands-only CPR or a chain of survival or an AED little, you know, single page to have their screens go to some kind of educational process around cardiac arrest.
Interesting. Now I should recognize the voice.
It's Pam Dodson, sorry.
Pam, what a great idea. I love it. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you.
Wonderful. You know, again, as Josh and Mike kind of set the table with a little bit of assistance from me, like the way that we used to try to go about this, we gotta rethink this. So excellent suggestion. Who's next? We've got stuff in our pipeline, but we know that you've got more.
Hey, Dave, I'll speak up. This is Lance Timmons with the American Red Cross in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, hey, Lance. And Lance is also the statewide CARES coordinator for Connecticut. Hoorah.
That's
Go
right.
ahead, Lance.
So I wanted to just kind of pivot a little bit to the data component. And I don't want to put too much of a plug in for CARES considering the meeting today, but I have reviewed the statewide 2019 CARES data, and it's looking like for the state of Connecticut, it's substantially low compared to the national averages. We're talking bystander CPR intervention rate of 19%, versus the national average of 41.2%, so a little less than half. And then public AED use in the state of Connecticut is about 6% compared to the national average of 12.2%. So at least for my state of Connecticut, what I'm doing is expanding a program called CARES, which is a cardiac arrest registry. And my hope is that as the program begins to expand and more communities and respective EMS and hospitals participate, we'll get an accurate account of what those true percentages are for the state. Because I think Dave said this in a meeting with me a few weeks ago. He said, you can't improve what you can't measure. So I'm not sure what your states are using to measure cardiac arrests, but there are methods to measure those outcomes, including bystander CPR and public AED use. And I think not only should those be collected, that data collected, but that data should also be shared with the Department of Public Health or equivalent in your state, in addition to really any news agencies or essentially, I think the sky's the limit when it comes to this, and this is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, excellent points, Lance. I think you'll find that most of the champions are either A, very familiar with CARES or are enrolled. But excellent points. Who's next?
Hello, I'm Prithvishri Ravindra from India. So one of the programs that we did last time was called as #CPR Challenge. So in this, what we did was, since the place where I stay in Karnataka, India, has a lot of student population. So what we did was we initiated in their colleges social media challenge where they can come to our booth and on the mannequin they could demonstrate mainly at least two things we wanted them to say. That is, how do you identify cardiac arrest and how do you give hands only CPR? And they we make the like a 1.5 to 2 minute video, and then they share it on all the social media platform and challenge the next people to take up the challenge.
Yeah.
So we tried doing this.
Brilliant. And social media. So I'm just looking at the clock. Mike, I'll give you 2 minutes to tell people what you're doing. Go.
Yeah. Okay. So what we've done is we've used, actually what we're using right now, we've used Zoom to host virtual CPR AED demonstrations. So we have a database of people that have contributed and participated in our events and stuff. So we send out emails and we advertise it. We've done 5 of them so far. And what we do is when you use the Zoom webinar, you can actually connect it to Facebook Live too. So anybody that likes or follows your Facebook page will actually get a notification on their phone that you're going live. So, it gives them an opportunity to click it as well. And we keep them to 30 minutes. We do them, so people are during the day or on the weekend. We want to try to attract people to it, but we don't want people to get bored and be sitting there for hours watching. So We do 30 minutes. We go through the 3 main steps about calling 911, doing chest compressions, pushing on the chest, doing chest compressions, and shocking the heart with an AED. So we focus on those 3 components. It's pretty brief, pretty quick. We use a AED trainer, use mannequins, and someone just kind of watches by learning. We offer question and answer sessions at the end, and it's actually going pretty well. We've had, I would say, close to 200 people that have tuned in either via Facebook or through Zoom throughout the 5 sessions. So, it's not the same as being in person and people practicing, but I think it's, giving people the confidence that they can do something if an emergency happens, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. And, I try to keep track of my friends as best as I'm able. Fortunately, I don't have that many, but Mike's one of my friends, and sure as heck, I'm scrolling through Facebook and there's Mike doing a live, hands-only CPR demonstration. And of course, my comeback to Mike on the phone prepping for today's call was like, do you tell people to practice on something at home? So don't answer that, Mike. I want to know, have any of you thought of improvisation around what people might practice on at home? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
For
I
the
know.
CPR,
Go
for
ahead.
the CPR challenge, which we told, we made them use a pillow to practice, to make the videos at home. A pillow.
A pillow, right? I know that there's more answers out there. I know you people are looking at this stuff.
Hi, David. This is Martha with Parent Heart Watch.
Go, Martha.
We actually encourage our members to encourage the folks that they are engaging with in their communities to utilize a towel, a t-shirt, and a roll of toilet paper. And that is, right now in the situation that we're in, folks are at home, they don't have a mannequin, but that really gives them a really a good feel for it, as if they were using, a mannequin. They don't get the click and so on, but I think that is a really good tool. And everybody has a roll of toilet paper, a t-shirt, and a towel.
Well, in the beginning, I wouldn't be so sure. But, thankfully the toilet paper shortage seemed to resolve itself. But
True.
yeah, what an extraordinary recommendation, right? To have people practice on, how about this, ordinary household items, right? Build a mannequin, use a pillow, follow along with me. These are not things that we thought of doing before, or if we did, we weren't certain that they would be received well by, our peers, and, oh, you can't do it that way. Again, this is a very, very different time. What other suggestions do you all have? Because then we're going to do some wrapping up.
So David, this is Martha again, and
Yes, Martha.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I joined a couple of minutes later than the start time, but I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of the Call, Push, Shock movement, which is a collaborative movement really to motivate bystander CPR AED action to increase survival rates. And, you can learn more about it by going to callpushshock.org. But I know Mike's foundation In a Heartbeat is one of our co-partners, and this is an initiative that both Parent Heart Watch and the Sudden Cardiac Arrest Foundation initiated.
Thank you, Martha.
I'm just going to follow up real quick with that. So yeah, we participate in the Call, Push, Shock campaign. And I would suggest that everybody just takes a look at it, because they have, we do a lot of stuff with social media, and the images that they use are very powerful. Like I kind of take a look at the engagement that we get on our posts, and And we get a lot of engagement just based off of when we use those posts because they're so powerful. I mean, and for those of you that haven't checked it out yet, I would definitely suggest checking it out because I think, you know, it definitely sends the right message and shows the importance of why people should know how to react.
Thanks, Mike. And that's what it's all about. It's really having a unified messaging and, you know, and explaining to people what a sudden cardiac arrest is, who it affects, what it looks like when it occurs, and what are the critical actions that they need to take to increase survival rates.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Very good. Wellington, Jen, could you advance 1 or 2 slides, please? So first of all, I wanted to thank Josh and Mike for joining us and playing along with my antics. You know, we wanted to kind of prime the pump, but we didn't want to tell you what to do. We know you all know what to do, and that you have just as much, if not more, innovative talent than the 3 of us combined. So well played. The 2 of you are remarkable, and you know, I know many of you who are on the webinar, and I have the same feelings for you all. So thank you to the 2 of you. Next slide, please. And you can even go 1 more. So, like I said in the beginning, our plan is to have these every month. It's the second Tuesday of every month from 4 to 5 p.m. And we're not gonna dwell on the same subject. We may revisit subjects, but we're gonna kind of keep it moving. We were fortunate enough to have Julie from the Resuscitation Academy last month talking about TCPR. You know, collectively, there were a group of us who felt that, you know, there's been a big disruption in our ability to do citizen CPR education during the pandemic. So I thought that it was time suitable to address this subject. I'm thinking of next month, unless something happens in the next couple of days, I'm thinking of probably having somebody from Emory and the CARES program talk about their annual report. But I want to pair that person with somebody who's really good at, like, ooh, this data is great. Now what do I do with it, right? So that's where I'm thinking. If you have any ideas or feel very strongly about what we should talk about next month, please let me know. But really important right now, either by chat or by voice, was this an hour well spent or an hour that, dear gosh, I'll never be able to, you know, get back in my life? Are these useful? Julie says thumbs up. Anyone else? I guess we'll find out, you know, if you're on or off the next call, right? But these are your calls. They're not really mine by any stretch of the imagination. We want to hear from you. And as we move forward, we start feeding more and more off of one another and getting more and more great ideas and, you know, force multiplication. So on behalf of the Citizen CPR Foundation, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude, not only for your participation, but all the work that I know that you're involved in each and every day to help improve, you know, quality and length of life. Next slide, please. So ending a minute early, so I know that Mr. Niskanen will be proud that we have ended early. I hope that you stay safe, stay healthy. I hope that we see you next month on our scheduled call. We'll provide a follow-up to you all. And by all means, if there was something that you have to share that you weren't able to, or you felt it wasn't inappropriate or whatever, please get in touch with me. At some point, you know, I'd love to evolve this group into a virtual network of some kind, but baby steps. So with that, I say thank you. Again, thank you to Wellington. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Mike. Ciao. See you next month, and I'll probably talk to some of you sooner than later. Until then, take care.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.